The Reds are back at the top of the league after beating Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-1 at Molineux. In today's video, as always, we'll discuss the 5 major talking points from the clash, whilst also going over all of the latest news from the last 24 hours that includes a shock Premier League revelation that will impact Liverpool. There is so much to cover in today's video, but first, please do hit the like and subscribe button for daily Liverpool content. Slot felt Liverpool were lacking in the first half against Wolves despite going into the break 1-0 up, with Canate revealing his halftime words. Canate's header on the brink of halftime was a relief for the Reds after a difficult first half which Wolves dominated for large periods. Liverpool eventually came away with the 2-1 victory, though it was a fight throughout at Molineux as Gary O'Neill's injury and illness hit side battled hard. The first half was very hard for the team because we were late, Canate said, and this was what the manager said at half-time: we need more concentration and more aggression when we start pressing. I think when we came back for the second half we did it well the first 15 minutes, but after again it was a big battle. But we are expecting this game today, and I think we have to keep the 3 points in our mind and learn about what we missed today. Slot's message to the squad has been consistent so far this season: win the duels and the result should come. And after losing out in the first half, winning only 42.5%, we were stronger than Wolves after the break, winning 57.9%. Canate could have came away from Molineux with the Man of the Match award, though it eventually went to Ryan Gravenberch after the centre-back's involvement in a sloppy goal conceded through Ait-Nouri. But either way, 3 points were paramount and saw Liverpool move to the top of the Premier League, though Slot's stance that the table is not yet a realistic view is shared by the squad. It's very hard, but to be where we want, we have to fight, we have to work very hard. Today we saw it, and now we have to learn about a lot of things we saw today. The games will start to be harder, and now we want to work more in training and be more concentrated during the game. Yes, we are top of the league, but it's too early to think about anything. We have to keep going, we'll see what happens. In a shock Premier League revelation, semi-automated offside technology may not be launched in the Premier League now until next year, the PA news agency understands. The introduction of the technology was approved by clubs in April and has been set to be brought in after one of this autumn's international windows. October had originally been seen as the most likely date, but that is now certain to pass, and it may not be ready by mid-November either and could go into the winter. League bosses sought to manage expectations on the launch date among clubs at a meeting held in central London this week, with testing on the system ongoing. The league believes the technology could speed up the length of the average VAR check for offside by 31 seconds. Clubs were also given a largely positive update on officiating and reminded about their obligations around player behaviour. It's understood there was no pushback from the clubs regarding the league spending more than £45 million on legal costs. There was recognition that the spending is necessary to uphold the league's rules, and as a small fraction of the £10 billion the league is set to earn in television revenues over the next 3 years. A vote to amend the Premier League's associated party transaction rules was withdrawn ahead of a club's meeting on Thursday, but sources insist the change would only have been a minor one. Reports this week linked the decision to a vote connected to a data bank, a tool used by the league's board to assess fair market value in commercial deals, to Manchester City's legal challenge to the APT rules. The report said and indicated a potential victory for the clubs in this case. However, the PA news agency understands the change would not have been substantive, one even if it had been voted through, with sources close to the meeting describing it as a minor. The APT rules are designed to ensure that commercial deals with entities linked to club owners are done for a fair market value. City's APT case was heard by the arbitration panel under Section X of the Premier League rules, where any decision made remained private. The hearing was held over 2 weeks in June. Under Rule X.31, the chair of the panel, with the parties' consent, can share an anonymized summary of the ruling where it is considered to have wider application to other clubs. A City victory would surely trigger changes to the APT rules, which the clubs would now be made aware of. However, beyond the drop data bank amendment, it is understood there was no further discussion of APT rule changes at Thursday's meeting. That could mean that the panel has not made a decision yet, or that the Premier League won the case and no rule changes are required. The Premier League was unable to comment on the matter under its own rules. Now moving on to our victory yesterday. In this part of the video we want to discuss the 5 major talking points from the match. Some things never change, perhaps. The Reds are no longer under Jurgen Klopp, but one thing which hasn't altered much under Arne Slot is Liverpool starting matches slowly. Against Ipswich it was particularly noticeable, and against Nottingham Forest too. We know how that went, but on Saturday evening in the Midlands, the Reds were once more barely at more than the walking pace, ceding ground and possession and far lower than their opponents to every ball in the opening 20 minutes. By the same token, it's also fair to therefore point out that while we might be kicking off games in the second gear at best, we certainly haven't been as mindlessly lax this term as we were for a year or 18 months previously, in terms of always conceding the first goal in games. And as was the case against Forest but not against Ipswich, we never really altered that approach and picked up our performance level, the difference being we did find a route to goal here. Forest showed this type of performance can be extremely costly and could well have been again had it not been against the team at the bottom of the table. Canate had an up and down day. What a 90 minutes for Canate. The centre-back was one of 2 or 3 standouts in the first half on an account of giving so much time and ball to Wolves, meaning the number 5 more than once had to find himself sprinting back to cut across or head away dangerous balls. Then he ended the first half by powering in a header for his first Premier League goal, a tremendous run and leap, although perhaps the keeper should have done better after getting a glove to it. It was all positive though. The second half brought with it far less impressive points to this game. The Wolves equaliser came as a result of an absolute mess, started higher upfield, but compounded by Canate's indecision and lack of strength to hold off Jurgen Larsen. Then he booked a few minutes later for a late challenge and gave away a succession of loose passes. Yet again though, there was a turnaround in this game to come as we raced back to make a vital block after Trent Alexander-Arnold was turned inside out, with Wolves looking likely to really test Alisson at least. Midfield too sloppy and casual on and off the ball. In terms of the rhythm of the Reds' game and the tempo of our play, it's not fair to entirely blame and responsibility at the feet of the 3 midfielders, but of course they have a major part to do with it. On this occasion, they were way too often below the required level. Dominic Szoboszlai was perhaps the biggest culprit, given the lack of diligence in his passing and that 4-yard miss he somehow managed, but he wasn't alone. McAllister has been in excellent form, but even his first touch was a little off, several passes going astray. Add this to the likes of Mo Salah not waiting his passes at key moments and general malaise, meaning it all was too slow to predictable. Even Ryan Gravenberch, who barely misplaced the pass and was undoubted a top pick in the centre, was guilty of slow speed of play at times. And it's clear Liverpool were miles below their best at a ground which has often yielded this type of scrappy, difficult, narrow margins encounters. In terms of improvement, Curtis Jones' midweek showing and impact off the bench should help raise individual performances, while Harvey Elliott will be keenly looking at what he might add once fit. Van Dijk led a defensive masterclass. While it's always fair to point out the not so good aspects from performances, this was far from a dreadful day. Liverpool won after all. And for that, there is a pleasing trait developing to thank even when not playing well, even when far from our fluid best, and even when making ourselves problems, Liverpool do not give up chances. Aside from the 8 Nuri tap-in from 3 yards after a defensive horror moment, Liverpool allowed an XG of just 0.25, with Wolves creating 0 big chances themselves and having only 18 touches in our box in total. As above, Canate definitely had his moments of excellence, but it was Virgil van Dijk who was the supreme performer. The Dutch captain simply impassable with his recovery runs, blocks, headers, clear and general awareness of play. They did score, but it's not only the second we've conceded in the league in 6 games. That's kind of an improvement we can get behind. Top of the league as it starts to take shape. Very early still, true, but 6 games in is about when the table would start to publish back in the day before pre-season mattered more than the global events, and every scoreline meant the end of the world or the start of a dynasty, and Liverpool are top of the Premier League. Far from struggling to deal with taking over from Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot has done much right so far, and if not everything is perfect, nor should we expect it to be. One shock result aside, which we quickly learned lessons from, it's all going swimmingly so far, though of course bigger tests lie ahead. For now, we can all enjoy the sight of the league table as attention turns once more to Europe in the week ahead. Liverpool fans, what do you make of the shock Premier League revelation, and what's your thoughts on the game against Wolves yesterday? Let me know in the comment section below. That brings us to the end of today's video. As always, please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.